So I've picked up my Mobilvetta 2019 i56 and it has got a lot of rattles, a lot of squeaks, a lot of rubbing. So I'm going to have to try and make my way through them one by one. Didn't think I'd have to do this with to me, virtually a new van. Coming from a 22-year-old Heimer, I expected rattles and squeaks, but with this, oh man, it's just crazy. That's this panel here that's just loose and rubbing. This panel here all around, you know, it's everywhere around here. So I'm going to take off this panel. I think there's some screws around here, and then we've got these little plastic cap heads that I'm going to pop off as well. Take them all off, and then I've got some self-adhesive neoprene, I've got some self-adhesive felt. I've had a look online, and sometimes some pipe insulation cut down seems to help, so I'll see how I get on. So the first thing I got found on mine is I've taken that panel off, which wasn't screwed in particularly well. There's two screws from underneath here and only one was in. I don't think the other one actually catches the let me see. Yeah, see here, it doesn't actually catch the plastic. So that one does, but the other one doesn't catch the plastic, hence it wasn't screwed in. So I'll have to put another screw hole in there, put a bit of packing. But the worst thing is just in this corner here is, see this whole panel, I don't know if you can see that, it's moving around quite a lot. So if you look down here, there's like a metal section which must be some kind of support from the chassis, and then we've got here. So I'm just going to drill a little hole here, put a self-tapper through or a bolt, and just firm up here, and then that whole panel then can't move. Hopefully that'll stop that creak. And then you can see here, that's where this top panel is rubbing here, so I'm going to have to put some kind of packing underneath here, stop it rubbing. And also there's no means of, there's no fixing along here. Now again, I might put a bit of rubber underneath here, and I'll put just a black fixing through here. You know, I've got fixings here, and here. I'm not offended by having a plastic fixing here if it stops this movement and this rattle. Okay, the other issue which you've got is obviously the space in there is pretty tight. So I'm using this, you know, it doesn't happen very often, but I bought this little gadget ages ago to get in tight spaces, and it's nice to actually use it. So just attach that to there, a little drill, and then I've just drilled through the metal and then pushed the plastic with my knee, and then gone through the plastic as well. And then I'm just going to use a self-tapper, screw it in there, and hopefully that'll go. Self-tapper in, a little bit long, just touching the side of the dash, but it's not a problem. Look, no rattle. It's number 1 of 562. So I'm not going to put the screw in on that one yet, because I think I need to take the whole dash top off. But for me to do that, I also need to have a look at this one here. See this white plastic case that's creaking. Now there seems to be a little gap at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Little gap at the bottom, but near the front edge, can't really see, near the front edge is touching. So I'm not sure if just to trim that down a little bit so it's not touching, or put a little bit of neoprene rubber in between, which I might do. But also on further investigation as well, because this hole here, you can see, when I tilt that, there's a gap forming there where it's cracked. So I might just see if we can repair that somehow, maybe a bit of fiberglass or something, I don't know. There's just there's 3 holes. There's 1, 2, and a third one down there. I'll whip that off. These ones are just a plastic cap on top of a screw. So you just get a little screwdriver, pop them off and unscrew it. Okay, I've taking off this panel, just those 3 screws. Nothing exciting on there, just a piece of aluminium that it's attaching to. Looking at this is the moulding piece. Now if you look at the quality of that there, so that's what the screw's been attaching to. It's like peaked, so it's not going to sit flush, and therefore it's going to move around. This one as well, the middle one, which is cracked, again that's not sitting too flush either, and it's cracked. The end one, that is all right, that's pretty flush. So I'm gonna, I don't quite know, didn't really want to get the fiberglass and stuff out, but I suppose at best I'll just maybe put a bit of fiberglass on there and see if that holds. I might heat it up as well and just kind of flatten that up. I'll see if I can heat this up and see if I can flatten that peak on there. And then what I thought I'd do is I got some foam, it's quite thick, dense foam. I'll probably put a strip of that in between these 2 lugs, and again from there to there, and then that'll sit on this aluminium piece here to there and there to there, and hopefully as it moves around I'm not going to get any creaking or rattling against these blinds. And I think down here where it is catching, I think I'll put some masking tape just around here with about 5mm perimeter, and then when I take this panel off, I'll put like a little thin piece of neoprene along there. I've got some 1.5mm self-adhesive neoprene, so when this panel slips back underneath, the neoprene will act like a bit of a buffer on these areas here. I think that'll do. Okay, I've managed to get these little caps off. Now be careful with these, you have to use a very sharp sand knife blade just on its own, and just put it down the side and kind of lift it up very slightly, catch it, and then lift it up completely. One of mine's pinged off, so I'll have to try and get another one. I'll put my holes just in there, just for keepsake. But the screws underneath here, so I'm going to remove them. But in the meantime, I'm just taking off this side here. Now we've got a sat nav that's been fitted afterwards on this one because it's the i56. But where the cable goes through, it's I'll have to look on the other side, but it looks like it hasn't been like notched out for it. That's not going to help matters. But there's quite a lot of flex. There's a little crack here on the carbon fibre. That's okay there, just on this bit. So I'm going to fiberglass the other side there, just to make sure it doesn't get any worse. But I suspect this here will be exactly the same. We'll put a little bolt down there, and we'll probably put some foam underneath as well on the wooden support underneath. But I'll take that off, and then I'll tape round here again, so I can put a bit of neoprene. If you see around this side, I've just taped around there so I know where I'm dealing with. I'll just put a bit of neoprene, 1.5mm self-adhesive up to that edge of the tape, and then I'm going to slip it back underneath. Hopefully that will stop any vibrations. So I'll do the same over here, and then when I get to put it back in, hopefully it'll be hunky-dory. Forgot to mention before as well, you've probably got these alarm, you may or may not have these alarm sensors here, but if you just get them and then just pop them up, you'll expose a screw there. If you take that off, it'll make it a lot easier to remove this panel. There was a notch cut out of here, so I'll take that out before. But on this side, it looks, you can't really see. See the screw hole there on that plastic, and there appears to be one on the dash, but that wasn't attached. But to be honest, that's not making too much of a problem, too much of a squeak. But I will screw it back into that piece of metal, because there's feels from the other side like there's some kind of part of the vent. I don't want to screw through that, so I'll screw that to the metal like that, and it's definitely not going anywhere. Again, there's a piece of wood. So when I take that out, I'm going to put a piece of foam on top of that piece of wood, in between that and the plastic trim, and screw that down into the wooden support there. Okay, I've removed all the screws from this top panel here, but for me to get it out, I need to take the blinds off here, and I don't know how to do that. There was a couple of screws just the other side down here, but they don't do anything. Take the blind out, I can see one of the screws, but to start taking them out, I think I'm going to end up damaging the blind. So what I think I'm going to do instead is underneath here, just underneath this lip here, I'm going to put some foam all around here, where any plastic is on top of plastic, to try and give it some resistance. So I've got some foam knocking around. I got this, is quite thin. I'll try that first. I think I've got this thicker stuff, which is probably going to be too thick, and then I've got this like rubber neoprene left over some soundproofing I did on a T5 years ago. So I'll use this rubber stuff, and I'll see if I can kind of stick it underneath these parts here, and maybe see if I lift this here underneath this wood and the plastic. Probably end up using this thicker stuff here. Yeah, so fingers crossed. So what have I done here? I've put this, I'm gonna thicker type foam, and put a small piece there underneath that edge. Then I've used this stuff here, which is thicker but it's not as dense on this part here. And then I've used the again, the thicker stuff. It's much more dense, it's proper sound deadening. I put a section there, another one there, I left a little gap here, and then I've needed a thin strip of this dense one across here, because the blower outlet is here, in a section from about there to there, and that must feed into this plastic front panel, and that must then distribute the air into these outlets here. So obviously you don't want to push the foam in and then cover the air outlet from the main dash into this add-on bit. And then again, I put just a bit of very thin foam, this stuff here, because it felt like there was a bit of plastic on plastic there, and then, you know, another small piece of this thick foam or dense foam, and another piece there, and then the less dense foam there, and I'm going to put another piece in there. And over this side, it's just had a piece already kind of semi-cut, so that there is just going to go underneath this section. So what I've decided to do, I'll put that in properly, I'm going to put two screws in, one here and one at the end of this piece of wood, which is about here. I'm also going to put a screw in on the side of this dash here as well. So once this is down, I'm going to screw through into this dash. You won't see it, it's tucked out the way, and I'll use one of the little plastic caps to go on top. So hopefully that'll be much better, and then I'll try and get that bit of self-adhesive neoprene underneath these gaps. Okay, I'll come back to you. Okay, thought I'd let you know where I'm up to. So all those pieces of foam are tucked underneath the perimeter. The screws are back in. I had to replace a couple of them, just with some bigger screws that I had, just because they weren't biting properly. Because it's only plastic in plastic, and once that wears out, you know, you've had it. But they're all screwed on. I've put these additional screws in here, one there, one there. I even put one there as well. So that's a lot better there. I put a couple of little pieces of like rubber there underneath, just on those contact area. And again, on this side is so much better. Screw on the side there, these screws here, there, and a little bit of rubber you can just see there, which will be hidden when we've got the other frame in. There, I'm not sure if you can see, and there's a piece of foam underneath that ledge there. The same on that side, you can just see it poking out there. Okay, on for the side panel. So my first thought was to put this this thick padding in between these points here and that point there, and mounted it back onto that aluminium face. It was just too thick. It didn't seem much to compress myself, but when you just screwing in, it was too much compression. So put this very thin soft foam just along both perimeters where it will make where it can rattle, and this here I couldn't be bothered fiberglass in it, to be honest, so I super glued it, and super glue didn't last. So what I've done is I've kind of plastic welded it. Say plastic welding, I've got a soldering iron and a cable tie and melted it around, and it seems to be pretty secure. So I'll put it on, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot better than it was. Bear with me. Well, this is a lot better here. There is a little bit of rubbing. I'm going to put just down there a little bit of the neoprene stuff, the rubber, but there is a pinch point here where the see there where the blind is catching the plastic. So I'm just going to cut that little section off where I've got blue line there. If you can see, it doesn't fall straight. Got this line here, and then kind of wraps in. Anyway, I'll cut that off, and hopefully I'll stop that rattling. Okay, that's much better. Much better. So have to see how we get on there. Okay, it's time to put this panel on here, which creaks a lot. What I've decided to do is put this rubber here, self-adhesive. Cut little strips, about 5mm, 6mm, something like that. I'll put little pieces along here, along there, along there, along there. One down there, I put a little bit there, a little bit there. And then on the actual piece itself, what I've done here, a couple on that face there where it can rub on there. And one just on the corner there. And one on that corner there. So I'm going to clip it back in and see how it goes. Also, on here I've drilled another hole, which is this one here, because if you notice, this piece is sloped, and that other hole which they've drilled, where are we? There, that is just outside here, so it doesn't line up. So I've drilled a hole through there, I'll drill it through into here, and then at least I've got two fixings on the bottom. It just clips in at the top, and you've got two screw holes here. So I'll see how we get on. Oh yeah, one other thing, just before you put it on, don't forget the little alarm detector. Just make sure you pull that out and screw that on. Still getting some creaking, so as the plastic or the carbon fibre rubs against here, getting some creaking, so I just put a little strip along there, one there, so I'll see how I get on. Okay, I'm getting quite a lot of creaking. I think it's this face here. So I've got, like, if you can see, it sticks, that piece of plastic sticks between here. So I've got this felt. I've got some self-adhesive felt that's not here yet, but it's, I think it's class a 1/2mm felt. I've got that for lining the cupboard, stop any rattling. I'm gonna glue that around this edge here, and then when that clips over that, hopefully you haven't got the plastic on plastic. So I think the easiest thing to do would be to use a glue gun. I think it's probably going to be the quickest, but the self-adhesive felt would have been so much easier, because once it's pinched in place, it's not going to come off. Anyway, see how we get on. So while I was waiting for the glue gun to warm up, I've just cut these little strips again of this thin foam, and I'm going to stick it along here and here, the thinner pieces, and a little bit thicker because it's wider here, and then these little, I don't know if you can see, they've gone like cone shaped or nipple shaped. So I'm just going to heat it up again. I warmed it up with a heat gun. You could use a hairdryer, and then as it's got nice and warm, I just used a big flat surface and just push down, and it seems to just click into place. So anyway, I'll glue. For gluing that, I just used some carpet spray. You spray it on both sides, just leave it for a minute or two, goes a little bit tacky, and then stick it together. Okay, I'll put a little bit of glue just on the edge. Pretty hard to do this and film. I watched that many YouTube videos, and must have much better filming equipment. But, okay, just do that there, and then hopefully this will wrap round here, and hopefully when that's on there, I'll reduce my rattles. But we'll see. It's never going to be perfect, this one, because it's just never perfect because you haven't got any fixing at this top. But we've got the fixings there, and hopefully this point here will not rattle. But we will see. Okay, this is a lot better, but I still got a bit of a creak there, and this flat piece along here, I can't see it. That flat piece along there, just rubbing on that dash part there. Can you see it? I've got flash on. Let me stick flash on. There you go. So let me get a pencil there. Just that pinch point there. So I'm going to put a little bit of, take it apart again, put a little bit of rubber there, and hopefully that'll stop that creaking. But it's a lot better from what it was. But hopefully when I do that, it should be sorted. Okay, get my focus going on. Put a little bit of rubber just there. That's just wobbling because that's not screwed down. But I think also this little alarm sensor is just literally rubbing against it, so I'm going to just re-drill that hole and just put it a mil or so away from this plastic here, and we'll see how we get on. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I don't know if you remember what it was like, but it was awful. A tiny bit there, but it's very, very little. But that's secure. I drilled that second hole there, so I got one there, which was the standard one. The second one I had to drill another hole. So this is all good. So I'm just, there's a gap there which just looks a bit rubbish. That's just fitting gap, so I'm just going to put a bit of that, where have I got it? Here, a bit of this black foam down. I'll stick it down there. I'll just fill that gap. Not that it will bother my wife sitting in this seat, but I'll know it's there and that will annoy me. So, okay, that's a success. So I'm just going to do similar thing with the other side over there. So I've done that trim piece for the by the blinds. I just need to, I'll do the same thing. I really like doing that felt, to be honest. The felt on that top lip, using the glue gun, worked really well. Just remember that obviously underneath the glue gun, I used to suck eggs, but put a piece of wood underneath because it does dribble a bit. I don't want you to get some glue on your carpet. Anyway, I'll rebuild that and we'll see how we get on. So I don't know if I recorded this before, but there's a bit of a crack there. So I was going to resin it, but I was being lazy, so I used again the glue gun and a packer for a window packer. So that's all glued, it's all solid. So I'm going to get the felt. I'm going to put felt along this edge here and along there, along the perimeter basically, and then I can just trim it, the felt, and then hopefully when it goes on, I've got no plastic to plastic and it should be hunky-dory. Obviously this is going to stick out a little bit, but I don't think you'll notice. As long as it's not squeaking, it should be fine. Okay, hot glued bit of felt round here. I had to re-drill that hole, didn't I, because I put the packer behind it, and then it snapped the drill bit because the drill bit and then attaches to the felt and tries to wrap itself up. So drill it first, but no dramas, no prob. Doesn't look pretty, but it'll all be hidden and hopefully it'll stop the rattles. Again, don't do what I've just done, just re-drilling that hole there for the for the alarm sensor. I forgot the felts behind it, and what happens is it just wraps up like that. So don't do what I did, learn from my mistakes and just move the felt out of the way. Okay, this piece is in, solid. In the end, there's only like one fix in there, and there. This top bit wasn't very tight, so where I've got the alarm sensor, I just put a bigger screw and pushed it in and screwed it through into the plastic on the other side. So it's then got like 4 corners, and it's pretty damn solid. Okay, I'll just put this back here. I'll put the cover on for the blinds. I'll put the caps back on, give everything a bit of a hoover, and then we're all done. Okay, it's all complete. It's absolutely chucking it down outside. There's those screws and the caps that I put on there. One there, obviously the same on the other side, but it's a lot more secure. So next move is a bit of a test drive, which can be whenever I can be bothered to get it out. So I will let you know how I get on, but fingers crossed that'll do the trick. It's a bit of a pain, but it was really irritating. And then I have to move on to the rest of the rattles. I've adjusted all the doors, all these here. These are loose here, so I've adjusted them because there's a little adjuster underneath. Yeah, got this door here, it's a bit loose, but I'm going to put a T-towel inside of there on the inside edge there, and then that'll help push the door out and latch it in. I don't like the TV, so it rattles and booms, so I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put a microwave in there, and then I've seen someone do a little smart trick, putting the TV on here. Get rid of this because I don't like this baggy pocket. So get a piece of, the bloke got a piece of this brown board, put it on there, mounted the TV there, and that looked pretty smart. So I think that's about it for now. I've got to fit a couple of 240 volt sockets as well. Okay, never ends.